Alright, so I'm going to go over how to crochet the Luvdisc. It's the same thing on both sides. This is shiny one, this is not shiny one, this one's kind of old, so the eye actually fell out. Not a big deal. And my pattern is on my website, so I'm not going to put it up here. Feel free to just go there to follow along. That's what I'm going to be following along. Some of the materials I'll be using. So I'm going to make the normal colored one. I have this pink yarn, the dark pink one, and then I have this light pink, as you can see. Matches, so I have those two. And then I have the safety eyes. These are the 10mm ones. This one's pretty cheap. Since you can see the burrs on it. But AliExpress, what are you gonna do about it? Okay, and then the backs, hopefully those should be good. Then I have my stitch marker, which is just a paper clip, and my darning needle. That's really just for sewing the dimples, and at the very end when we want to hide our tail. Okay, so I can keep these in the video maybe. And so according to my pattern, we're gonna make the dimples first. Okay, so that's super easy. Using our lighter pink yarn, you're gonna do a magic ring of 6 and then slip stitch in the first one. So this is how I like to do my magic ring. And this is that's the 4, that's not what I wanted to use. 3.75 mm hook. That's my favorite size, but I think a lot of testers, they like to use 3.5. And then if you're using shinny yarn or something, you're gonna have to match your own yarn for that. So let's do our magic ring. There we go. And now I'm gonna loop the yarn in my finger, and we're just gonna do 6 single crochets into here. 1, 2, and I am doing a yarn under and then yarn over for each one, just to make it tighter, and that's gonna be more prominent in the full body. 4, 5, 6. Okay, pull the tail closed, and since this one is just a very small circle, so we're really not doing much after this. I'm gonna go into the first stitch under both loops. Okay, active yarn and slip stitch. There we go. Scissors. Cut something long enough for you that you can sew with. Okay, and then I just pull it off the hook. Here's my circle. Later, I usually like to thread this one into the body so that it stays in place. Yep, and then yeah, so let's do the other one again. So magic ring, or you can keep your tail as small as possible to not waste your yarn, but it's completely up to you. Hold this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, pull it tight. Find your first stitch. Oops. Yeah, so sometimes you will just have to guide it. And there we go. It's under both. Slip stitch through. Cut it off so you have enough to sew. Boop. And we're done with the dimples. The light yarn will come back for the mouth, so we'll keep that for later. All right, pull this through, and we can set our 2 dimples aside. Next, taking this, we're gonna do the tail and the body. So we're gonna make the 2 top halves. So we're gonna make 1, and then a second one, and then once we make the second one, we're not gonna cut that one, and then we're just gonna continue. And this way we really don't have to do any sewing besides the dimple. So again, we start with a magic ring of 6. So this one is quite thin, and I think that's why my pattern is like that. If your yarn is a little thicker, just, you know, it's weight 4, but everyone's yarn is a little different, it might end up being a little cushier, bigger, but it's a fish. It's a heart fish. All right, magic ring again. 1, 2, 3. Oh, so that one came undone. So there's only 2 here. 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, pull it tight. All right, now we go into the first stitch. We're doing increase all the way around. Okay, so you gotta make sure you go under both loops, otherwise you're only working in the front loop. That's no good. Under 2. This is tricky now. So grab it, and at this point, when I have 2 loops on my hook, that's when I like to put my stitch marker in, and I put it in the back one. Okay, so increase, so that means 1 single crochet and a second one in the same one. Oy. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, and 2, 1 and 2. Okay, so now we reached the stitch marker, so we're not going to work into that one, and let's just count it this round. So you turn your work so that you could actually see the V's. Don't count what's on your hook. Let's use this pointer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This one's 9, 10, 11, and 12, the one that my stitch marker is in. So 12, that's perfect. Okay. So you can always count your stitches at the end, or, you know, once you don't end on the pattern that it's supposed to end on, like if it's increase, single crochet, increase, single crochet, and your last one isn't a single crochet, something went wrong, and that's probably when you want to be counting your stitches. So round 3, increase, and then single crochet. Here we go, put that in, put the stitch marker in. 1, 2, so that's the increase, and then single crochet. Okay, increase, 1, 2, single crochet, increase, 1, 2, single crochet, all the way around. If you lost count, you can kind of see here. This one I have 2 V's in the same stitch. This one I have 1. So that was an increase. This is single. This is increase again. So I only done 1. Here's my second one. Single crochet. Increase. Single crochet. Increase. And single crochet. Okay, next round 3. Nope, that was round 3. Round 4 and 5, single crochet times 18 all the way around. Okay, so take it out. Single crochets all the way around. I just find that I have to hold the yarn there to help guide it, and that's how I keep my tension almost the same. And somewhere around this point is when you want to start shaping it a little. Okay, so you're bending it inwards. The tail should be on the inside. Okay. so this is round 4, and then round 5 is the same thing all the way around, and then you're going to see that it will curve upwards. So we do it again, put the stitch marker in, and we work our way around. Oops, there we go. It's not my favorite yarn, but it's been lying around my house probably for this purpose when I first got it. I'm one of those people that I prefer to color match more than going with the yarn type. Yeah, so this one's pretty bad. It keeps like coming undone. You lose some of the threads, whatever you want to call them. But it's something I gotta use up, so here we are. Okay, let's speed through this if we can. Just want to get to the next step. Okay, so this is round 5. And after we finish round 5, it says finish off the first piece and leave a tail. Make a second piece starting from R1 again. When you reach the end of R5, do not cut the yarn. Okay, so this one doesn't need to be too long because it's just gonna be hidden inside, but we will use it to sew over a few. So a little bit of sewing, I'll give it like this much. Okay. And now I'm just gonna redo the exact same thing here. The only difference is I'm not gonna cut the tail and I'm gonna continue on. Okay, so I'm just gonna pause the video and come back once I have that piece. Okay, so I just want to take this moment to show you this. This is my second piece that I've started. And you see how the center, I have a hole there? So this is where you really want to just pull on the tail end, pull that tight to close it. And see, that's much better. So you can always, like, if at the beginning you didn't pull it very well, it's okay. You can always come back later and pull it until it gets hidden. You see, once you get too far or your design gets too complicated and you can't reach it, that's when you gotta stop. All right, I'll be back again. All right, so I'm back with my second piece. This is my first piece. Can you see the tail? No. This is my second piece that's still attached to the yarn ball. So now that I've finished this, as you can see, I still have a hole there. I am gonna try to pull that closed because we're gonna get to closing it real soon. So let's pull these tight. All right, now for round 6, you will continue on the first piece and loop back on the second piece. Okay, so I kept my stitch markers there just for your ease. So instead of continuing here, my first piece is this loose one. So now I have my hook on this last stitch. All I'm gonna do is go and work in where the stitch marker was. Okay, so take that out and put that right in as if I was gonna work into it. Make sure your active thread is coming from on top and behind. Okay. And single crochet 16 on the first piece. So let's put my stitch marker on to make sure. Okay, so make sure you pull this really tight so there's no gap. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay, 16, and then I have 2 stitches left. 1, 2. Okay, we're gonna skip that. Skip the last 2 stitches on the first piece. Skip the 2 stitches on the second piece. So here where my stitch marker was, that would have been my next stitch. So 1, I'm gonna count that stitch marker as 1, this is 2, and I'm gonna go into the 3rd one. Okay, so there's gonna be 2 stitches that are overlapping. Here, make sure you pull tight again. So let's count 16 again. 1, and we're going to single crochet 16 on this one. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16 right before our stitch marker. So that's perfect. All right. Now use the tail from the first piece of your darning needle to sew the stitches together. So here you can either keep your hook in it, or what I like to do to not lose stitches is, I already know what's the next stitch I finish this round. I'm going to use this and just put it in here, so even if it pulls, it won't get lost. Okay, now we don't need the stitch marker in the middle. We can ignore the 2 tails in the center. I mean, if those were long enough, you could use it, but what I'm talking about is this tail from the first piece. That's what I'm using. So take my darning needle, and you see how there's a gap in here between the 2 because we skipped 2 stitches. Just gonna hold it flat like this and just sew through them. There's no science to this. Pull it. Okay, let's go through the next stitch. You can even do the other stitch over. You don't want to go too low, otherwise you will see it. So you really want to be near the top-ish, because if you go too low, then you'll see the connection here. It's really just at the rims that you want it. Okay, this, let's go right beside it. So you do this until you're happy. All right. So let's see, you can check on the other side. Oh, there's like a tiny little gap there, so I'm gonna do more on that side now. And you just keep sewing over and over until you like it. Yeah, so I'm just bringing it over, coming through, bringing it over, oops, coming through. It's really not a gorgeous sight. Okay, and might as well do this, as long as you don't do any of the active stitches. Okay, like this. You know, that's the like last round, so we're not going to do anything about that. But at least my middle is closed nice. For me, since it's all going to be hidden on the inside, I just tie it with one of the tails to secure it. Literally 3 knots. I think the longer one was the actual tail. I can tie it with the other side too, if you're paranoid. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now we just want to tuck everything inside. So obviously it's still going to spill a little, but at least it's cleaner to look. Let's pull on this a little to find our hook, put it back. All right, next step, round 7. Okay, so we start doing our decreases now. These are the invisible decreases, so I do have a video on all the stitches, but if you're here ready, you're gonna go into the next stitch. Okay, so that's here. You just go into the front loop for the invisible decreases. So it's invisible decrease, and then you pull through 2. So I didn't really narrate that. I'll do it at the next one. Mark it, and then 6 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so for the invisible decrease, let me walk through it again. you're going to go into the front loop of the first stitch and then front loop of the second stitch. Then you're going to pull the yarn through both of those stitches. Now you have 2 on the hook. Then you pull the yarn through both again. That's a decrease. Next, single crochet 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So sometimes if you don't like the spot it's at right at the connection, I will just move it over 1. So let's say I don't like the spot, so I'm gonna do 1 here, an extra single crochet, and then later for the 6 I'll just do 5. Sometimes for patterns it matters. Usually if it's just times 4 all the way down, doesn't really make a huge impact. So now I'm gonna do my decrease and then just do 5 single crochets now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perfect. Okay, now this is a nice spot for my decrease. So front, front, oh, front, front. So at first there's 3. Yep. Pull through 2, pull through 2, and our last 6 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Perfect. And we end up right at the stitch marker. Okay, so there we have it. Everything is going as it should. Next we do invisible decrease, and then only 5 single crochets in between because we're really just decreasing it towards the mouth. So again, if you don't like this spot, you can always do a single crochet first. Okay, then we do our decrease. 1, 2, decrease, and now instead of 5 I'm just going to do 4 for this time. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, invisible decrease, front, front, 5 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, invisible decrease, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Last repeat, decrease, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, you know the drill. For the next 2 rounds we are still decreasing. Decrease and 4. Here we go. Decrease. Put my stitch marker in. And 1, 2, 3, 4, decrease, 1, 2, 3, 4, decrease, 1. Try not to lose your stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. And yes, you can just hold it and squeeze it in weird directions, it won't ruin it. You'll shape it later. So it's really not a big deal as long as whatever you do makes it easiest and fastest for you to crochet. All right, last-ish round, invisible decrease and 3. Here we go. Invisible decrease. And as you can see on my left hand, my middle finger is actually doing a lot of work helping guide the hook through. Oops, this is supposed to be an invisible decrease. Happens when I talk. Let's count it. Yeah, it's 4. Okay. Invisible decrease. And 1, 2, 3. Invisible decrease. 1, 2, and 3. Last set, decrease. 1, 2, and 3. All right. Put the safety eyes between round 9 and 10 on both sides. Okay, how do we find round 9 and 10? So we can count backwards. We just finished round 10. So now round 10 is like, round 10 is this set of stitches. This is round 10 and this is round 9. So literally in this divot over here. Okay. Just above the imaginary middle line. So imaginary middle line like this, and then we're just gonna put it above. Okay, so this is a little harder with the stitch marker in here, so let's just look on this side. This is when you want to shape your thing a little bit. Okay, imaginary line between here, so I'm gonna put my eye right there, probably. I mean, this is just my suggestion of what I thought was cute. It's just that you kind of want to put it now so that you can actually access it. Okay. And the other issue with this is that the other one does get kind of caught. And you know, I would put it mirrored, but you know what's smarter is to actually put it at the same spot when you flip it here. Oh. Alright, so that means no, the fish can always only go this way. So, you know, it's better to put it at the same spot. It was brilliant, but not quite. Okay. So here, if the fish is swimming that way, around here. Boom. Could be anywhere up here, really. Pick your hole if you don't. Wait. You just don't want to really be in the last round too much because we still have to work into it. But yeah, if you're unsure, it's just that our hole also gets smaller as we go. So we just have less and less space to work with. Oops, I lost a stitch. Cheers. Hi, buns. Okay, we can salvage this. I'm sorry you have to witness this, but feel free to just skip ahead if this is too boring for you. I'm trying to find stitches in between the safety eye. All right, come on. Oh gosh, I'm losing strands as I go. No, I didn't. Okay, I think I made the hole big enough, like this. All right, we're just gonna single crochet through that. Okay, so it's actually very hard to work into that, but it's getting small. Next, if you want, sew the dimple onto the body anywhere below the eyes as you see fit. Okay, so this is also a good time to sew, so really I should have marked this. Yes, I wrote this pattern, but I write a lot of patterns, so I kind of forget. All right, so let's get our dimples. wherever you like. So I kind of like it just below a little bit. So once I see that, I'm gonna find the center where this yarn is kind of poking out, and I'm gonna, you know, feed that one in there just to kind of mark it. And it does help keep it in place. All right, we're picking this hole. Okay, so this is, I'm talking about the back tail. That's what I'm feeding through. You can also just use your crochet hook and grab it in there, but you might want to grab like a smaller crochet hook. Okay, so that one's not very significant. Now, this is, I have another video on sewing limbs, but I'll just show you how I do it here. If you already know how, just start sewing. All right, so my first stitch is here, and I'm coming from this stitch, right? And my first one is here, so I'm gonna go in here, and then I'm gonna come out at my next stitch. Okay. Now I'm gonna go under both loops of that new stitch we're trying to sew in place. Go back in the same hole and come out at the next stitch. So right there. Go in the same hole, come out at the next one. Okay, go under the 2 stitches. This, and then we're gonna go back into the same hole. You can, you know, tighten it to make sure everything is still aligned. Okay, so here and there. Boom. Okay, under both loops, pull tight, go in, look at where I'm coming out, right about here. There we go. In and out. So where's my next stitch? And you want to be like just under it, right? You don't want to be too far out, otherwise you will see it if it doesn't cover it well. Ooh, almost lost my hole. Okay, and then I have one more stitch here. And now we're done. It's because we went in and out so much, it's good enough. What you can do, go into the hole, feed it out, and you can tie these 2 together if you like. But honestly, it's stable enough, unless you're really yanking at it, then maybe not. Okay, so let's keep this organized. Keep our active thread yarn out of there. Shove the rest of the tails in. This acts as stuffing. Okay, so now we've done one side. We're just gonna sew the other side now. I think I'll just keep filming it as we go, just in case you wanted to see it again. So I want this one here. What I would do is like use a smaller hook, so 2.75, kind of just come out here-ish, pull the tail one. See, this is just the part where it's hard to angle, and then you get caught on other things. Yeah, so now I can't find it. It was a good attempt, but I've lost my yarn. I think it's this. I don't know what it got caught on. There we go. Okay, so this is my actual yarn. Go back in. Thank you. That one's done with, and we're gonna sew this one in place. So I thread my needle first. And then, okay, seriously? All right, I've threaded my needle now. Had to pause that for a bit. Okay, now I'm gonna hold it in place. It really doesn't matter the orientation, so work with what's comfortable to you. So this is where I'm gonna go in the closest hole and come out the next stitch. Okay, and really you can come out like anywhere along that stitch, so just try to find a hole instead of piercing through the yarn. It just feels a little more natural. These are just my own comments. Is there a real proper way? Who knows? I'm just telling you the way I do it. Okay. So I actually find that like this kind of sewing is very satisfying, and I actually don't mind it. It's the ones when they're not flush with the body. Those are the types of limbs or other accessories that make sewing not as fun. Okay, here we are. Here we are. Bum, bum, bum. This is this one. This is this one. Okay, so just like stretch it a bit. And I'm gonna call that done. Feed it out. Tie, pull it tight. Tie my knots. 2 to 3. At this point, if you're tying it, you might as well make it tight. It's sturdy. Okay, now we're done. Now we're really gonna feed everything in, except for the active yarn, which has gotten mangled. All right, feed that in. Okay, now at this point, we are switching to the light pink. Okay, so what you're gonna do is we're gonna cheat a little just because I already had to fix that stitch. In the next stitch, usually this is what you do in your last stitch. You're gonna go in 1 and pull up, and at this point, this is where you change your yarn color. Okay, and this is technically the last stitch of the last round. So then I take this one, hold it tight, and pull through. Now that was my last stitch. So now I'm gonna do back loop only slip stitch times 16. Okay, so the back loop is the one in the back. Like this. It is tricky because the yarn sizes are different. Maybe you don't have this issue. Okay, like this, and then I'm gonna put my stitch marker. 16 is just all the way around. Usually if you don't see any other instructions. I will do a few, oops, that's not a slip stitch, that's a single crochet. There we go. This was the last stitch. We go into the back loop and we pull through both. Okay, next stitch we do the same thing. So I like to do a few stitches before I cut off the yarn, just so like we're not pulling anything and nothing comes unraveled. Yeah, these stitches are pretty small to work with. Okay, slip stitch. You can see I missed some there. That means I didn't perfectly go into the back loop. There we go. Okay, so now I've done like 3. What I can do is I take the lighter pink and the end and the dark pink, and then I just tie a few knots here because this is just a plushie. It doesn't matter if you were doing clothing, that would be a different issue. And then I just cut off this yarn so that it's out of our way. All right, just because we don't need it anymore. You can tuck those ends in, get out, get out. Seriously. Okay, now we finished the slip stitches all the way around in the back loop only. And you're gonna see why we do this at the very end. This is just the more tedious but beginner friendly way of doing the clean color change. You can actually do this in one step if you want, but I'm gonna stick to my pattern. Okay. Yeah, so this is where we have the eye in the way, but otherwise the hole gets too tiny. and then it's harder to put your eye in. So I did change that back and forth a few times. And my tester said it was fine, so gonna have to trust them on that. Okay, you don't want to accidentally pull yarn out like that. Still working through the slip stitches. Honestly, the most tedious part right now, but this new yarn will be nice to work with. Seriously, get out. Okay, you know what? It's not a big deal. We'll cover it. Slip stitch, slip stitch, slip. Okay, and we're gonna work all the way until our paper clip, stitch marker, whatever. Oh gosh. Okay, last 2 stitches will be harder. Again, the eyes here, but we can do it. Just use some force. Okay, so now my light pink comes back together. Back loop only, decrease, single crochet 2. Okay, back loop only of the light pink. We're gonna decrease. So I didn't put invisible decrease, and I put decrease here because you don't want to be working to the front loops. We want to be working the back loops, and that's just very hard to like twist your hook for. Like here, it's hard to twist and get into there. So we're just gonna do normal decreases, which means we pull one through, we go in. Oh gosh, very hard to get into these back loops of slip stitches. Still haven't made it in yet. Yes, I am. So sometimes what people do is they kind of use a needle to help them open up the hole a little bit. Did that help though? Not really. I'm really using my nails to force it. There we go. Now we're just gonna force the right strands. There we go. Pull it through. So this is a normal decrease, that's why there's 3, and then pull through all 3. Okay, decrease, and then 2 single crochets in the back loops only. So working in those darn back loops of the light pink. If you want, you can just use your darning needle, go through each back loop and just loosen it a bit. That might help. 1 and 2. Yeah, I really got to do the other color change method. I don't have this issue. Okay, so I'm loosening them all. It doesn't help that much. Okay, I loosened a bit. Now we're gonna do a decrease again. Oh, which one was I on? No, decrease, and I did 1. Wow, okay. So I have another single crochet to do. Boom. Now we decrease. Oh, got it. Pull 1 front, go into the next back loop. Pull it front, go through all 3. Okay, here we go. It's coming along. 1 single crochet and 2 single crochets. Okay, that's 2. We're gonna do a decrease. All right, I'll meet you at the end. All right, so I have finally made it through that last round. Here we are. If you wanted to stuff your little guy, you could stuff him right now. A little bit, but you should like very little. But the tails, honestly, there's just this part that's a little flat. So I'm gonna try to feed it into that side. Otherwise you can massage it in. Okay. so that's there. Next, okay, now we just have invisible decrease times 6. All right, these should be much easier. Now we're working on the front loops again. Invisible decrease. Okay, and we're decreasing again. The only tricky thing is knowing which stitch you went into. I find the invisible decreases to be visually harder, so I always just shake them around to see which two are getting pulled. So both of these have been used. And this is the next set. Like so. Like so. Decrease. Okay. And another decrease. Boom. Okay. That's getting pointier. Yes, this connection point, that's as clean as we get. But you see, the point of the back loop was to get this really clean line in the color change. I personally really like that. All right, last round. It's just 3 decreases. So I think we can count that in. That's why I got rid of my stitch marker. 1, 2. As you can see, I'm still squishing my fish really weirdly, just so it's easier for me. And oh, right here. And this one gets really tiny. They kind of work through it. And there we go. Cut a long tail, sew through each front loop only of the last loop. Okay, so like this. Pull it out. Thread this. And now we're just gonna go through it like this. 1, 2, and 3 if you really want. See how pointy that got? Wow, that got real pointy. And then, honestly, wherever it goes to. Sometimes I like it underneath. This is actually way pointier than I like, but not my issue. Okay. So now we've lost the point a little bit, which I like better. And this is where you can shape your Luvdisc a little bit. So because of the color change, the different yarns, a little different, but there you have it, a little Luvdisc. Okay, so it's not done. This is a different color, so we will need to snip that off. There's nothing to hide. But here we are with our Luvdisc. So as you can see, they'll have a tiny connection point, but on this side, very, very clean color changes. Congratulations.